Good morning, New Vision Center. My name is Reverend Leslie. I'm one of your ministers here at New Vision Center. And if you're anything like me, your shoulders have dropped about 2 inches away from your ears during that song. There's something about John Denver that just makes the collective, ah. And we are in the middle of a 2-part series on joy. So in case you missed it or in case you need a review, last week we talked about playing Twister with God. This idea that really we made the case that if God is all there is, then God is in everything, including things as silly as playing Twister. We used the parts of the game to talk through how we build our own relationship with the indwelling presence that we call the divine, that we call God. And so our steps here were get the right foundation, because if you've ever tried to play Twister on carpet or with stocking feet, you found that you were laying on the Twister mat pretty quickly. We talked about getting up close and personal with the divine, because, you know, that figurative face in the armpit of God, that's just me. It might just be me. But just in case you've ever landed there, it's just part of the deal. And then we talked about being ready to laugh, willing to roll with whatever life gives us and finding the humor in it, recognizing not just that this is a way to move through life, but that this is a divine way to move through life. That spirit isn't only serious and solemn. It is serious and solemn and reverent and all of those wonderful words, but it's also playful and funny and joy-filled and raucous. So, now that we've anchored into the permission, as it will, to explore that part of our relationship with our own self and with the indwelling divine, today we're going to talk about, the title of the talk is So Happy Together. It is about taking that concept of divine joyfulness into the different aspects of our life, the different relationships we have in the world. Playfulness, joyfulness is absolutely integral to personal development and relationship development. It's something that psychologists have talked about a lot. Whole branches of psychology have been born to study this joyful, playful aspect of ourselves in relationship to ourselves and others. And yet, we tend to kind of hold back from it. We tend to kind of want to put, now, perhaps you are immune from this, so forgive me if I'm generalizing, but there can be a little bit of wanting to only put the best, clearest, most professional, most perfect foot forward. Rarely do I hear people say, you know what my favorite way to get to know someone is? Karaoke. We often aren't willing to showcase things about ourselves that might not be at professional level. For example, I very rarely am willing to do sports in front of people I don't know, because it's that funny. Buzz has the right idea. It is a comedy performance. It is not an act of skill. And yet, psychology and spirituality both tell us that the only way to really fully know ourselves and be known is to put all of ourselves into play, into the relationship. Anything we hold back leaves a space for, if they knew that about me, maybe they wouldn't love me. So we're going to go through some different kinds of relationships today and see how we can take this joyful divine aspect of play into our relationships to deepen and more completely experience life. Yeah? So my first point here I have helpfully titled for myself, Know Thyself. There's this gentleman, Charles Schaefer. He was living until just a couple of years ago, and he was an American psychologist who was the founder of what they call play therapy. It was originally for children, but they figured out really quickly that it had applications beyond children. So what play therapy taught us is that when we engage in play, we access different parts of our brain, different parts of our personalities, different parts of our spirituality, and we can find ways to know ourselves better. This is one of the things Charles had to say about this. He said, "We are never more fully alive, more completely ourselves, or more deeply engrossed in anything
Hello, New
than
Vision
when we are
Center. I'm so
playing."
happy to be able
There's
to
an
join you
inherent
from my
piece of this
vacation.
where the
And
armor
I just
comes
wanted to
off. We're
touch base
lost
on a
in the
couple of
fun of it, and
things
the armor
that I
comes
think
off.
are
And
important
what they
enough to
found
be
with
included
children
in
that then
this quarter's
has
town hall.
translated to adults
The
too,
first one is I
that
want to
when we are
invite you.
playing, we can access emotions that we can't label intellectually. We can feel them, process them, and move through them in a way that is not available to us using just our serious grown-up personal brain. It comes through as a way of being able to process trauma that otherwise might remain unprocessed and become more armor. It moves through us as a way of finding parts of ourselves that we may not have recognized before. A playfulness in language, a playfulness in a willingness to show the emotions, the ability to laugh, to cry, to imagine, and then finally to be able to empathize with the other person. You know, it's virtually impossible to experience empathy if we don't understand our own emotions. This is something that therapists deal with all day long of their professional lives, as well as ministers. If we don't understand our own emotional life, how could we ever put ourselves in the shoes of another person and fully understand and empathize with them either? And yet that's what we have created, is a society full of people who don't have connection with their own emotions. But when we play, we get to imagine being someone who could understand. We get to imagine being someone who moves in a different way through life. And as we connect with our own ability to feel those emotions, we become more accepting of ourselves, of the fullness of our own experience, and we open up to being more accepting of other people. We cannot know ourselves if we're not willing to see, feel, and recognize our own emotional life. And it's not always fun to feel that. But when we do it through play, it feels safer. We feel braver. You know me, I love a sock puppet. I can say a lot of things with a sock puppet that I might not say with my regular mouth. Play opens us up to the possibility of being the full expression of who we really are. And this is essential if we want to take who we really are into relationships. Building a one-on-one relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a close friendship relationship, requires the building of intimacy. Americans have a really terrible habit of what we call parallel play, which is extraordinarily healthy if you are 2 or 3, right? That's when you're sitting next to each other and you're in your game, you're in it, not looking at each other, not talking to each other, not participating at all. It looks like this. Maybe if you're really developed, it might be this. And some of it's fine, but some of us can get stuck in that, well, we were together, we spent time together, but our faces were in our phones the whole time. Building real relationships that stand up to and actually develop our experience of divinity requires actually being together, focused on the same thing for a period of time. Focused on the same thing for a period of time. That means putting the phone down for at least a little bit. So we're going to take a breath because I know that is a challenging notion. We're going to take one more for the TikTok addicts. And and we can do it. The people in our life are worth it. Opening up to the courage of allowing intimate relationship means being willing to take that piece we've learned from solo play about taking the armor off and allowing ourselves to be seen to happen with another human present and letting them see us, letting them actually know the allness of who we are. It means letting go of the idea that we can control the situation, control the narrative, and control the perception of how we are seen. And it's not always easy, is it? Especially if we've experienced rejection or even perceived rejection. I don't know about you, but I have thought and probably even said things like, never again. Like, well, I've just learned now. I just can't show that part of myself to those people. They can't handle all of me. I mean, I am a lot. It's okay. We can laugh. That's true. And yet, when we hold any part of ourselves back from someone that we want to know fully, we want to know them fully, they can't actually know us back. And like we learned before, if we cannot connect with and live in our own emotional state fully, we can't really know them either. So here we are, this whole universe of people. I just see like little Lego people just bumbling around, seeking belonging and connection and joy and fun and love, and just bonking off each other, not connecting because we're not willing to put down the armor. And yet we must. And yet we must. Because at the very heart of who we are, is someone who has a microphone again. That's at the very heart of who I am. At the very heart of who we are is God in a physical form trying to love other aspects of God. But we have to let the connection happen. We have to be willing to do that. The payoff is infinite. The payoff is infinite because when we do allow that to happen, when we share our interests, when we are willing to admit our maybe a little bit over the top obsession with Harry Potter and TikTok, or whatever else it is that we are into, with someone who can see us and be with us and really hold that space for us, what we're doing is creating shared connection points. And people in intimate relationship who have shared connection points, mutual interests, their relationships are stronger and they last longer. And if that wasn't enough for you, because everyone I know is like, do you have the secret for a long-lasting relationship? Shared connection points. Longer relationships, stronger relationships, and those people live longer. It's like the secret potion for a long and happy connected life is to let people in all the way. It builds a deeper intimacy, and intimacy in and of itself is an indicator for health and longevity. It's part of why we come together in communities like this. The opportunity to join together. Now, I have been at conventions, CSL conventions, and I have people say, "Oh, you're from New Vision Center? That's the party center, right? That's the center that's really into throwing parties." Like, woo, we're the party center. And you can tell when they say it, they're split in their opinion, right? Part of them is like, I want to go to the party center. And part of them is like, but that's not a serious, godly, devoted center, right? Wrong. It's true. There's something about the culture of New Vision Center that invites us into this joyful, energetic of fun and play and really being who we are all the way. And some of that's because we love a good party. We do love a good party. But I really think the heart of it originated with when Reverend Dr. Michelle Madrano was a senior minister here. One of her most central life principles is full authenticity. Full authenticity. Show up with everything you are. Let it all hang out. And she modeled that for us for 17 years. Those of us who were here back in those days. And we learned to live it ourselves. And then as each new person came, we taught them by loving them right where they are that it's okay to be exactly who you are. When I came here, I had purple and pink hair. It's continued to change through the years. I dressed how I dressed. I was in my 20s. I was like, I wonder if this is going to fly here. Turns out nobody cared how I dressed, other than to say, cute dress. You might have heard me say a word that is less than pristine. Not on the platform. I'm usually good on Sundays. And has it impacted my ability to be here fully at all? No, because this community, when we say we're radically inclusive, we don't just mean what color you are and who you date. It's all of it. It's all of it. There is literally nothing that you can do to take yourself out of the running for belonging here. Reverend Karen pounds this point. You will feel accepted to the extent that you are willing to be accepted. But what's the key to feeling accepted? Letting yourself be seen. Letting yourself be seen. We're so good at showing up as the pristine, serious, pious morning meditators, right, my morning meditators? But we have to be seen in all of it. Because the all of it is where the juice is. The all of it is where the yum is. At the very beginning of pandemic, when we knew it was coming, but it wasn't quite here yet, Reverend Karen and I sat down, and it was this, okay, everything's going to shut down. It's a matter of days. How are we going to hold the community together during this time? And the first things we thought of were, okay, well, we've got the morning meditation. What else can we take onto Zoom? Can we do a check-in time in the morning? Can we do a check-in time in the evening? How can we make sure that people are able to connect and talk and pray? Can we get a practitioner on every single call? Yes, we can. And man, we did. And our practitioners, they rose up like the powerhouses they are, and they took care of this community. Of all of the things that we put into play that were so essential in those first few weeks, do you know what the things are that still exist now that pandemic hasn't slowed us down any longer? Game night. Game night and the morning connection time that is not about praying. It is about checking in and having coffee and just chatting. Connection and fun. That is at the heart of, I would say, not just this community, but every community. Because when we connect in fun, when we let ourselves let it all out and just be fun together, everything else gets taken care of. Because the allness of God is in the room. And we don't have to make anything happen. Ernest Holmes said it like this: the person who is always glad will surround themselves with people who are happy, and life will be a continual enjoyment. But I think maybe Winnie the Pooh said it a little bit better even than Ernest Holmes, when he said, we didn't realize we were making memories. We just knew we were having fun. Thank you for being my fun place. Let's pray that in. Oh, how good it is to lean into the allness of all emotion, knowing that every bit of it is divine. Every bit of it is spirit, in and through and as, each within the sound of my voice, and indeed each everywhere. To know that the allness of who and what we are is truly divine. That the joy and the play and the excitement and the raucousness is right there on par with the depth and the reverence and the serenity. We invite it all. We invite it all, and we revel in it all, knowing that anything that has been on any and all of our hearts is met in that place of sweet yes, that all is well, and we call it good, and so it is.